Welcome back to part 2 of Trade Your Way to Financial Freedom. If you haven't watched part 1, please go back and watch part 1 fully. Thank you. Let me just get this slide happening. Okay, and if you're not on full screen, because in a moment we will be covering some of the trading strategies, it'll just be helpful if you go down to the bottom left hand and just expand your screen to full screen. That'd be fantastic. And once again, please hold or stop this recording and just read the risk disclaimer that we have here. So before we move on to what I believe are 12 of the world's best day and swing trading strategies, there are 3 other subjects that I want to quickly cover with you. Now, what we've got to really do is create to be an outstanding, epic, world-class trader, which we discussed in part 1. You've got to be in the top 5%. You have to have a target of being in the top 5%. Is to create that compelling future, you need to know what your daily, weekly, monthly income profit targets are and what you're going to do with the profits. You've got to be able to enjoy, to be able to celebrate the money that you're making out of a business, which is critical, of course. We're going to quickly talk about also money management. How much should you risk? I still see educators out there and even books talking 5 to 10% risk. Well, that's absolute suicide, which we'll discuss in a moment. And which are the best markets for you to trade? Now, for you to truly succeed as a trader, you must have a compelling future. If you've got a compelling future, a big enough why, you can do anything. You can become unstoppable. So you've got to create that compelling future, and you do that, of course, through putting together what your goals and dreams are, etc. For some people, this is new. You may not have done this for a while. You may not even believe in this, but in my opinion, it's absolutely critical to succeeding. Now, let me just ask you, what would it mean to you if you could earn an extra $1,000 a week? Now, if you're trading Forex, that's 20 pips a day on a standard lot. If you're trading futures, that's $200 a day per contract. 2,000 a week, or even 3,000. Would earning an extra $3,000 a week, working maybe 2 to 4 hours a day maximum as a day trader, would that make a difference in your life? Of course it would. Now, I know that you may be skeptical, or is that really possible? Of course it's possible. It just really comes down to having a clear-cut vision for your future. Now, this is a table that someone sent to me that's used on a website by another very good educator. He sells a program for under $1,000, and I've actually seen it's a very good program. And this is a table he's got under a business plan. Of course, as a trader, you've got to have a business plan. Now, what he talks about here, and this is talking about trading futures for a moment, is it's starting off with $5,000, trading 2 contracts and having a target of only $100 a day. And I'm going to be showing you in a moment how realistic is that, and that's at the lower end. If you trade using some of the strategies I'm going to show you, is that then as your account builds, that is, you're using the market's money, you start to trade more contracts. Now, mathematically it works out to be down here, but you're actually risking 6.6% of your capital per contract you're trading, but you're also earning and drawing $10,000 a week. Now, that's based upon 20 contracts, but one way of looking at it, it's the market's money, it's not your money. Now, I don't, by the way, endorse that at all. I think 6.6, but it's a great illustration of what is possible, and using the market's money, that is parlaying using the market's money, is another way of looking at it. So let's have a look at this. Now, the maximum risk, as most of my clients here today and clients that I coach know, the maximum risk ever is 2%. And as your account grows, you really want to drop your risk down to at least 0.5 per trade. And I work on between 0.5 and 1%. Maximum exposure at any one time, 2%, and that's across all markets, by the way. So if you're trading, say, the E-mini and the NASDAQ or the NQs and maybe the YMs, you want to have a maximum exposure of 2% at any one time. Well, that would be $65. So that means for every contract you trade, you need to have 3,300. Now we've got to allow for down days. So let's just say here you're netting only $100 a day. That's 300 a week. That's 9% a week on your money. 9%. Where else can you earn those sorts of returns? And I'm allowing a down day and a day to recover. If you're netting 200 a day, that's 18% on your money. You double your account in, what was that? That was 6 weeks. You double your account. Now let's have a quick look at a sample income plan. So if you've got a $10,000 account, maximum risk 2%. If you're earning $100 a day, and you're averaging 100 a day, that's 1,500 a week. If your target's 200 a day, that's per contract, I should say, sorry, that's $600 a day. That's netting $3,000 a week. So we're looking at $100 a day per contract that you trade. Now this is the true potential if you learn how to trade correctly, professionally. Now this is another one. If you've got a $10,000 account and you're trading Forex, earning just 20 pips a day per, and starting off by trading minis. And I've got to say, this is one attractive factor in trading Forex. Of course, you can start out by trading mini contracts and build from there. So here on 6 mini lots, earning 20 pips a day on average, you can see here that's 600 a week, weekly profit 6%, and a maximum risk of 2%. Within 50 weeks you're earning $14,000 a week. Is that possible? Absolutely. There are traders that do this. So I think this is a really applicable time I bring this up. Let me quickly talk to you about the fallacy of the multi-million-dollar trader. Out of hundreds of traders that I know and coach, very few, I can only think of a small handful out of the hundreds that I know, actually trade multi-million-dollar accounts unless they're running a hedge fund or a managed account. The fact is, most traders are only trading between 10 and 20 lots. So I'm talking about professional traders here, 10 and 20 lots at any one time. Those of you that know me and watch me trade, how many am I trading? 10 lots per trade. Now I might put on 2 or 3 positions at any one time that meet my risk management rules, but for an example, at my age, I'm 55 years young, and let me say this, you're only and most of you that have seen my keyboard know I've got a little thing on my keyboard, age is nothing but a number, and it's true, but I have a certain risk if it suits my profile. So where you look at some of these multi-million-dollar traders, they're usually not trading their own money. So it's okay if you have a goal of trading only 4 or 5 contracts. If earning just $2,000 or $3,000 a week is what your target is, or what your compelling future is, that's great as long as you're doing your best and it suits your parameters. But these are very, very real targets and goals that you can reach. They're realistic. Now what if you're only in a financial position to open a $1,000 account? So let's just say you only have, say, $500 to $1,000 right now. What are your options? Well, number one, do it now. When's the best time to plant a tree? In 20 years time or now? Well, of course now. Likewise, in learning to trade, if you have very limited amount of money, start by trading perhaps Forex. You'd start off with a mini account, trading mini contracts. You can do that with $1,000. If you want to trade futures, and 90% of my trading, as most of you know, is futures, you do need to have a minimum, in my opinion, of 3,300 or around that sort of money. You must not break your money management rules. Okay, if it means starting or getting a platform underway and doing your 3-month apprenticeship as you build that account, we'll do that. Don't trade with real money. So remember, if you've only got $1,000, there are rules to follow. That is, your money management rules are really applicable. One other thing which I've got to bring up right now is that I still hear and see so many people with the mentality, okay, I'm learning how to trade using a simulator, and of course every trading platform, whether you're MT4, whether you're TradeStation, NinjaTrader, Sierra Charts, whichever one, you can trade in sim using the simulator. You must use that simulator and assume you're trading real money, because traders, what you're doing is you're hardwiring habits into your brain. Oh, there's a good counter trend trade, let me take it, when you should be mastering one setup, the T1 to begin with. I talk a lot more about this in my training course, but if you're going to break the rules, you are going to fail. I'm sorry, and this is where perhaps my marketing guy says I get out of touch with reality in trying to sell courses. But you have to follow the rules, because remember, we're trading against some real professionals out there. You see, willpower and discipline is like a muscle. The more often you apply your willpower, the more often you apply your discipline, the stronger you become, just as a muscle does. After a while, you develop what I call reflex action, where it becomes easier to trade. And it's so important that you understand this when it comes to the simulator, is that if you're constantly breaking the trading rules with the mentality it's just a simulator, guess what, you're going to do this with a real account. I'm sorry, but 99.9% of people fall under this umbrella, and it's so true. I want you to succeed. I want you to become an epic world-class trader. I want you to be sending emails to me saying the incredible success stories and giving me incredible success stories. But you won't achieve that if you don't develop that discipline, that willpower muscle. So moving on, I had to talk to you about that, is which market to trade. So remember what we're after a trading range, and we're after liquidity. Now we've got really if we consider Forex or the currency markets, Forex and currency markets, and I'll show you a chart, just one, we're going to run out of time, I could go all day with this, but look, they trend really well, and you've got to really watch, of course, they'll move very quickly when we have news announcements, red flags, etc. You've got great volume, great liquidity, but let's talk about the elephant in the room. Much fairer regulated in most countries. We've seen of course over $10 billion in fines by the regulators around the world against the banks and some of the largest financial institutions. 10 billion in recent fines. We've seen now just the news, the latest on the newswire is South Africa is now going after its banks. There's been a huge amount of manipulation when it comes to brokers and institutions. We've seen, of course, the market makers go out there and running stops. This has been a huge issue with Forex. It's becoming a much fairer and regulated market now. Another huge benefit here is, besides the great trends, the great liquidity most hours of a day, and it's open 24 hours a day, basically 5 days a week. You can start with as little as 1,000. You can actually start by trading micros. Now, of course, with a lot of brokers there, where you're trading micros and minis, they've got what we call the A books and the B books. I don't want to get too much into the broking side, but that's what's happening. You're on their B book usually when you're on the micros and minis. But now, because of the regulations, you're going to get exactly the same. What you see on the screen is what you get on your fill. You get MT4 from most brokers, which is absolutely free, a great trading program using MT4. I'm a TradeStation user, for an example, and I pay, I think it's what is it there, I just pay I think it's just brokerage, but normally I think it's $99. I can't remember now. Anyway, it's about $99 a month plus your data. Then you've got, of course, NinjaTrader, etc. you can trade Forex with. But MT4 is free. It's a great way to start if you have a smaller account. Now, futures, you've got lots of options there. Of course, you've got the E-minis, the S&P, you got the NQs, which is the Nasdaq, you've got the Dow, you got the black gold, the CL, which is oil, you got gold, you got the European market, the FESX, you got the DAX. Of course, there is a small time period. They're closed each 24 hours, but basically they're trading 23 hours plus a day. Highly regulated, particularly out of the USA. You've got the NFA, the CFTC, strictly regulated, direct to market. Most of them trend very well. They've got great liquidity now. On the NQ, for an example, I know there's and this is the thing with educators, you'll hear lots of people have got different opinions when it comes to trading. Quite often I will use a market order. If I'm putting 10 or 20 contracts in, I will get 1 to 3 tick slippage. That's the reality. Some people of course have got resting orders. That's great. They don't get the slippage as long as the price goes down or goes through what they're after. They're highly regulated, as I mentioned, direct access. Realistically, using the stops that I recommend, the time frames, you're going to need $3,000 to $4,000 per contract. Now if you drop down perhaps down to an 89 tick, you might be able to, because your stop is going to be a few ticks smaller, you might be able to get underway with 3,000. But risk management, a maximum of 2% is so important in this business, traders. There's nothing worse. You go and say put 2,000 3,000 in your account, and yes, I know the day margins are as low as $500, but you blow that $2,000 because of poor risk management, and it really is soul destroying. And just on that point, which I haven't mentioned earlier, if you don't learn to trade correctly from day one, you're going to miss out. And say you blow your account once or twice and give up, you're going to miss out on probably the greatest financial opportunity of your life. Trading is a lifestyle that gives you freedom of choice. It's a business you can run basically any 24-hour period you want to work. You can place trades even in the aftermarkets on futures, as I'm going to actually show you a trade I did last night, a T89. I'm actually going to show you that, and you can go back for the experienced traders and you'll see it on your chart. You've got to learn, because if you don't trade correctly, learn to trade correctly, and you blow your account a couple of times, you give it up and say, oh, no one can learn how to trade, it's all rubbish, or I'm not smart enough. Learning to trade correctly the first time is going to be the greatest business opportunity of your life. It really is. Now getting back to the slide here, commissions are under $5 per contract. Now if we compare that say with Forex, where you might have a spread of 1 pip up to 4 pips. Now pip on a standard lot's $10 US in most of them, running up to 4 pips in a spread at news times or high volatility or a lower liquidity market. You're effectively paying brokerage, because I know they say it's zero commission. Some, by the way, and just on that point, some brokers are now charging a commission. You've got various things, but they're still getting charged. There is still a spread charged by the banks and by the liquidity providers. But effectively, if you average it out, you're paying between $10 and $40 in commission for that trade. That is something you do need to consider. But getting back to it, there are other advantages in trading Forex, of course. So we've got 3 main things happening with the trend, traders. We've got the trend, the breakout, and of course breaking out of a range bound market. Now it comes up that people ask me, why do I have so many different setups? Now in natural fact, I've got close to 20 different strategies that I'll use. Many of them are a variance on another, but just as a craftsman has a number of tools to work with, I've got a number of trading strategies I use for the 3 different market conditions. And yes, I know for the highly experienced traders, we could say there are another 2 or 3 different market conditions. But in summary, you're either trending, you're either range bound going sideways, or you're breaking out of a range bound market. And so the main setups cover those. Now in learning these 12 strategies, now number 1 is that for me to give you 12 strategies in my course, I'm basically giving you a toolbox full of tools for different markets. But as I keep preaching, I know I'm like that preacher in the church that keeps giving the same sermon, but absolutely critical you start with 1, and it's the T1, and then move on to the T2, because they're a variance of each other, and you master it, you own it. For an example, if we take a medical doctor, Who earns the most money? Your local general practitioner who sees everyone from someone with a headache through to with a common cold, or is it the heart specialist, the brain specialist, the specialist eye specialist? They earn the big dollars. Become a specialist and you'll earn a lot more. So it's as simple as 1 2 3. Watch for the pattern, as most of these setups are patterns. Does it meet the rules? Just like a pilot has a checklist, I have a checklist. Then you execute the trade and manage it. So remember, the act of trading is simple, but so many treat it like rocket science. It is simple. It's not easy. Let me say that again. It's simple but not easy, because there are rules you got to follow. Very important thing is to remove from your screen all that's not necessary. Remember, ego depletion. The more things you're looking at, the harder it is to make a trading decision. Now remember, it might look sexy, but it does remove our focus when we're trading. Now Richard Branson said this beautifully, is that, and this is so applicable to trading, long-term success in trade is rooted in simplicity. Is that you look at some of the setups and say it couldn't be this easy, but it is. Any fool can make something look complicated. Complexity is your enemy. And Richie just said that so beautifully, and it's true. And exactly the same thing when you go and look at the floor traders that I work with. You look at their charts. Do you know what I might see on their chart? I might see a moving average and maybe a volume indicator, or it'll be off to the side. Is that most of them, of course, many of them are just pure price action traders, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Is that they don't have the hugely complicated charts in most cases. Now let's quickly talk about indicators here. Is that, yes, I've got a trade set up that I teach called the T25, which is the 2 to 5 candle pullback, which is a pure price action, where all you need on there is one indicator. You could go to volume if you wish, but I think it overcomplicates things. But all I want to know is what is the main direction of my trend. So I might use a 34 or an 89 EMA. That's pure price action at its best. However, you've probably heard this: the early bird gets the worm. However, the second mouse gets the cheese. Now the metaphor here, or what I'm talking about here, is I'll use indicators, of course, to confirm a trade. The indicators is the second mouse. I might be in a bit later, but hey, I'm going to run away with the cheese. So pure price action, absolutely. And I teach it very actively. But indicators, of course, allow me to get in a little later, but hey, they work for me. Once again, everyone's got an opinion. So the following strategies are an overview of what I believe to be some of the best trading strategies and techniques you'll ever learn. These come from years of research, back testing, and trading in real time. They're battle proven, they're battle tested. Anyone can learn these. They're about trading with a trend continuation, counter trend, and of course, most importantly, they are simple and easy to learn. Now trading is easy when you keep it simple. And remember how we learn to trade, traders? We start by learning one setup. So Confucius said, the person who chases two rabbits catches none. How that applies to trading is I'm very focused on one market normally when I'm trading. Usually when I'm training traders as a coach or running a seminar or a webinar, I'll usually focus, nearly always, unless the client asks me to look at 2 or 3 other markets or other markets at the same time, I'll focus on one market, which is usually the NQ, for a whole lot of reasons. Now if you're looking at 2 or 3 markets, it becomes very difficult if you're day trading, particularly if you're short-term trading. Now if you're scalping, you can only look at one market. A scalper might get in with 5 or 6 ticks in and out. I'm a slightly longer term scalper. Now trading the way that I trade, and most of you or many of you here have seen my videos or have perhaps attended a seminar, you know that I'm usually wrapped up within 1 or 2 hours. I've had my 4 to 8 winning trades, I'm finished, wrapped up, hit my profit target. I might refer across to and trade the YM, or perhaps a black gold oil, but it makes it more difficult if you're trading short term. Now if you're trading daily charts, of course you can be looking, you've got the time on your side, but as a day trader, remember, it comes down to focus. Be very careful of how many markets you're looking at. Now in mastering these setups, the latest research from the University College of London says it takes 66 days of daily practice to install a new habit. Now Robin Sharma says this beautifully, and so does the late Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn, one of the best personal coaches I think it's ever lived or ever did live, was Jim Rohn. God bless his soul. He was just fantastic. Is that he used to say also, everything is hard before it gets easy. So in developing the habit, the reflex action, you're not going to learn it overnight. Remember earlier I said treat it as a 3-month apprenticeship. Absolutely critical. Now I know some of you might be thinking I'm going on and on this stuff, but this is the true grit. This is what makes a trader. Now it's really easy also if you're buying dips and selling the rallies. That is trend trading only. So the only way you really want to learn how to trade is trading initially with the trend. That is, you've got to ban yourself from doing anything else. Now I mentioned the simulator earlier. In learning how to trade, you want to be able to take 100 trades on the simulator and not break your rules once. That's right, 100, and not break the rules. If you break the rules on trade 67, go back and start the count again. Remember, the markets are always going to be here, and you're only going to learn by learning how to trade, by learning to trade with the trend, and that's with the T1 and the T2. So let's have a look at these. The T1 Super Scalper, this is a setup that appears, it's a candlestick setup that appears on every market, and this is probably the foundation trading setup that we have. What I've got here, and hopefully you can see my cursor moving around here, we've got the white paint bar. That doesn't appear until we have our tick above the second, so you don't need to have the paint bar at all, because this will appear on any market. You're basically looking for what I call the rule of two candles in a trend and then a tick above those, and Carter speaks extensively about this in his great book called Mastering the Trade. So the T1 is what I've renamed it, and I call it, and I've got a whole lot of additions and changes to it that I teach you in my course, but I call it the T1. Now by the way, I've got code names for all of my trade setups, because when I'm training, it just makes it a lot easier. We've got a T1, we've got a T2, we've got a T10. After a while you pick up and you know what those are, but technically speaking it's called the Super Scalper. Now you'd never require any other setup or strategy if you focus not just on this one type of trade. It's a trend trade, and you're trading with the trend. It's a brilliant trading strategy. Now it will get you in later than say a T25, which is a pure price action. And the advantage here, which we'll talk about more about the T25, the T25 you'll have a smaller stop, larger target, but this is more visual. It's a more visual and it's great for a new trader. Now what I've got here, and this is a shot by the way from the Euro 5 range. So if you're wondering on the Forex what sort of markets, well, on the Euro, and this is taken from yesterday, so today it's the 30th down under here in Australia, Saturday the 30th of May, and this was from either yesterday or the day before. Now here we've got a T1. Now by the way, if you're not familiar with this, a 5 range means there's 5 ticks in a candle. So basically you've got a good 15 ticks, and what you may do in a new trade, you're going to enter the trade, and as we know, usually the market moves in waves, and there's at least 3 waves, so you might only take 3 or 4 of these in a trade or in a trend, just depending on market conditions, but let's not go too much into that right now. What we've also got here is so this is a T1 with the trend, with the trend, with the trend. We've also got an 89 bounce on this one of the strategies that I teach. Highly successful, I trade at 89s virtually every day. See how price comes down, bounces off the 89, bounces off the 89, bounces off the 89. Over here I've also got a T89, one of my favorite trades, a T89, and here we wouldn't have been into this over here, but T89 or here, but the T89 is a brilliant trading strategy. I'm going to show you some more screenshots of that in a moment. Getting back to the T1, we got 1, 2, 3. Quite frankly, if your target was 200 a day per contract, this is on Forex or on futures, the exact setup works whether you trade stocks, Forex or futures. Doesn't matter what market, and it also works in all time frames. Doesn't matter whether you're trading minute, range, tick, Renko, it works. Just remember, different setups, different markets. Like Renko you may get in later, but Renko's got fantastic advantages for removing some of the noise, etc. But the T1 is a brilliant trading strategy, and I teach every new trader the T1 is your foundation strategy that you're going to start with. Then we move into a trade that quite often sets up at the same time before the T1 or around or straight after. It's called the T2 slingshot. Now this strategy has been around for years. Brilliant, solid, trend following only, high probability trade that I take every single day. It's a golden trend trading strategy. Now this one was a trade, just single one was taken here. I think it was the what day, oh look, that I think I took, look, I take so many every day, but this is where you can see I went long. I've got a crossover on my Stoke down here. It turns up I went long 10 contracts and out, and that was, I can tell you now, that was 13 ticks. So this is a strategy that I use every single day. Sorry, just to jump out of it very quickly. So the T2 is, in way of learning, you're going to learn your T1, your super scalper, and move on to T2. They're the two main ones you're going to start with. Master one, then you move on to the other. This is another one of my favorite trades, which is probably the third most favorite trade, which is called the T10, money on the floor, sometimes called the Kachin trade. Once you trade this correctly, you can see I've got this is actually, technically speaking, a counter trend trade. It's a change in, so we can see here at around, what's that, 502, somewhere around that time, I went long 10 contracts for 13 ticks here on a T10, because here, for an example, we're right on a pivot. And by the way, this ticked down 1 tick lower. My stop on the 133 is 2 ticks below the closest swing low. For new traders, you'll pick this up very quickly. It's one of those aha, now I understand once I explain it correctly. The way I train traders is to explain everything in a step-by-step logical sequence. So this is just a recap video I did this morning. So it was 5 a.m. Saturday morning down under, and there was a lovely T10 out for 13 ticks. Now up here I actually had a pivot bounce, and I then entered a secondary trade which was a T10. Now remember earlier I mentioned subject to risk, keeping, I'll sometimes open up 2 or 3 trades, but as long as I'm well within my 2% risk. My target here was the 89, where I come down here, which I knew was going to bounce. When I say woulda, coulda, shoulda, I thought it would bounce. There's no certainties in trading. The market, by the way, doesn't care what we think, but it come down, and both of them were out at exactly the same time, both for 13 ticks, and I finished trading for the day. Went on, there were some great trades for the next 20 minutes or so afterwards, but I'd had a great trading morning, so that was it for me. But getting back to here, this is a T10. It's very visual. The T10 is also very easy to learn. It's the top 3 trades. So T1, T2 and T10s are the top trades that I'd want you to learn from day one. So some of the other trade setups that I teach you, a T18, which is a multi-time frame retracement concept. It works brilliantly. Now To quickly mention, I do use an anchor chart. If I'm trading the 133 NQ, I will look at a 3 range on the NQ just to get an idea of what's the overall trend. And that's another topic for we could have a long conversation about using anchor charts. We talk about it in our course. I'll also teach you the T19A and B. It's two versions of a traditional divergence trading. Now, high probability but higher risk. New traders just learn how to trade with the trend, and traders, if you just want to have a really stress-free trading life, just learn T1, T2 and T10 setups. That's all you need. Seriously, you have a great low stress trading life. That's all you want. I also teach you a trade setup called the T25, which is on average a 2 to 5 candle pullback with the trend. It's pure price action trading. You could trade that also on its own. Now, one of the advantages with this particular setup, it'll get you in earlier than when you use indicators, which means you have a smaller stop and you can have a larger profit target, but you'll have a higher loss ratio, but it's still a brilliant trading strategy. And once you become experienced over a 6 to 12 month period, you'll develop reflex action on all of these. However, you've got to remember ego depletion. It can be exhausting sitting in front of your screens for hours if you're trading all of these. The T69 is generally a change in trend or a trend following trend continuation concept using a breakout of the channel. Now the T98 is a very solid counter trend reversal trend trading strategy. It's got a lower probability trade. However, when traded correctly, you get in a good 3 to 1. It's a great risk reward trading concept. It leads to a new trade or to a new trend. What you might do is look for the setup, then once the new trend's confirmed, then know you're in wave 1 and trade with the trend. So there's a lot of ways you can trade this. Then we've got one of my very favorite trading strategies is the T89. Most of you that have worked with me know I absolutely love this setup. Love it. I use angulation to confirm the trade. I also call this a snapback trade. It offers an excellent risk reward, and it's my favorite counter trend trading strategy. I absolutely love trading this. Now here we can see here, this is a trade I took just the other day, and by the way, I trade this every day, so this is just a random trade. Here I shorted 10 contracts out for 13 ticks. Your first logical place, by the way, I could have perhaps squeezed 16 out of this, is to go for your 89, which is down here. Close your one before. I wasn't worried about that, but traders, a little tip: wait for the candle to close before you enter your trade until you understand the trading concept. Very important. Let's have a look at a trade. This is from last night. So if you look at the date stamp, you'll see over here, you see here I had a this is on the 29th of the 5th 2015. So this is last night. I was downstairs watching a movie actually with my family Friday night, relaxing with the family. I came up just to check a couple of things on the market and look at this beautiful T89 setup. I just had to jump in on it. Now I'd paused the movie. I got in. This is a quick snap of just 13 ticks, and this is once again last night, short at 10, out very quickly. Now, but what I wanted to show you here, the reason I wanted to show you this one here was down here I had a T10, but also there was another T89, and remember I was downstairs at Livement. Can I? And that's a goal, and that's a target that I have every single day, is I'm constantly after improving. But there's a big difference between saying to yourself, how could I improve this strategy, compared to what else or what other strategies can I find? Because with these, I want you to make a commitment to yourself, is that learn these strategies. You never have to look for another strategy ever again, because these are the best of the best. I think this is the final strategy. Here is the 89B and the 200B. Now I trade the 89B, as most of you know, every day. It's also an extremely reliable trade. It's the 89B has the best win-loss ratio. It's a bounce, and I'll tell you, it's a bounce off the 89. just some rules that we have with it, which tunes this particular setup, but it works brilliantly. Nearly every day you make money out of this. This is another one of these strategies. If you wished, you could trade alone. It's just a rock solid strategy. Now, the major reasons traders fail is a failure to do the simple things. So the big thing here, if we look at this trade setup, it's a simple strategy. It's an 89 bounce. It's simple. But as this statement says here, if it's so easy, why isn't everybody successful? Well, the things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. Let me say that again. The things that are easy to do are easy not to do. It's the small things, the small choices that we make every day that really make us as traders. The 89B is a very basic setup, but it works. But being humans, we want to keep moving around from one thing to another. So almost in closing, here's the question I want you to ask yourself is, can you do this? Can you learn to day trade? Can you learn to swing trade? Because all of these, if you don't have time, or you couldn't sit in front of a computer and short-term trade, well, you can use hourly charts, you can use higher range charts. These setups work in all time frames. The questions we ask ourselves are either empowering or disempowering. Move from saying to yourself, I can't do this. Now this is really important. I've got to quickly talk about this. One of the things I ask traders to do is to keep a daily trading journal, as I do, is I look at the language that you're using. Words can be empowering or disempowering. A lot of people say, why do I always fail at this? This is RS, this doesn't work, I could never learn this, I can't do this. That is so disempowering to you as a trader. You've got to move from I could never learn to do this to what steps could I take to become an epic day trader? What can I learn from this? What actions can I take? Ask yourself better quality questions and you'll lead a better quality life. The mind, the brain's incredible. When we ask it an intelligent question, we get intelligent answers back. Ask yourself empowering questions. It's critical to succeed as a trader. So in closing, and I mentioned traders is going to cover a lot of things, I'd even recommend go back and watch it the second time. It's the small things that make the difference. It's the daily choices traders, how we talk to ourselves, learning to master one setup before we move on to the other, having the right money management rules. These are the critical factors in becoming an epic day trader. So what you'll learn is 12 of the world's most powerful geometric pattern scalping day trading swing trading strategies for trend trading, breakout trading, retracement, counter trend trading, continuation trading. Big mouthful traders, but in other words, 12 great day trading or swing trading strategies. Clear and concise written instructions for each. They're not difficult to learn, they're easy to learn. You focus on one, you don't try to learn them all, you focus on one, you break it down, and you'll have aha experiences. There's over 5 hours of clear and easy to understand online video instruction. I'll give you the indicators settings that I use, so it doesn't matter what package you're using, whether it's TradeStation, whether it be easy charts, whatever you're using, I'll give you the settings that I use. Now if you are a TradeStation user, by the way, I provide you with the indicators on TradeStation. I've nearly got everything completed, or very similar indicators also for NinjaTrader, but basically any charting package you can customize. Clear and concise rules on when to enter your trade, clear and concise rules on where to exit your trade. 4 powerful money management strategies. Now personally, I normally go for a fixed stop. That suits me and my style, and I go into the training course why I do that for me personally, and what is the most important topic. And traders, many of you have emailed me in the past, or I'll deal with you, I'll train you, and as we talk about regularly, your trading plan, your psychology is number one. See, giving you a trading strategy is easy because, as I mentioned earlier, I have dozens of strategies that work, but it's how you apply them and following your rules. So your investment for this is $197. don't focus on the cost. As I say to traders, you can't afford not to have this program. That's all right, may upset you by something, but you can't afford not to have it. That's the bottom line. Is it's peanuts. What will it cost you if you don't purchase it? Because one thing, it'll accelerate the time in which you learn to trade. You never have to look. It's a huge promise, but you'll never need another trading strategy again. Stop looking, stop buying the courses. I've done it for you. I do the research every day. It's what I do. It'll save you money. Don't give your cash to other traders, and stop spending money and buying systems and strategies. There's no need. And of course, a potential loss of financial freedom as a trader, because unfortunately a lot of traders will move from this and they won't follow the advice. I'll keep buying, I keep blowing their accounts. Traders, I want to be upbeat for you, because you can have a fantastic career. Trading is great fun. It's besides the money, it's great money. There's no other business that you can really get underway for a few $1,000s and earn the income. There is no upper income. You're going to take some of the great traders that have turned $10,000 into 40 million in 2 years. I've got a whole lot of them that I talk about in my course. I talk about some of the key traders, and when you really look at them, they're trading, in many cases all they do is trade patterns. It's amazing. So to order it, please drop me an email with your details or any questions that you may have at trader@iamadaytrader.com, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So if you're interested, of course, in private coaching services, I do coaching from 1 hour upwards. Some of my clients, I have one client that I work with 1 hour every week, a professional trader. Others fortnightly or every second week, etc. Others just want to get up and running quickly. Of course, I've got my fast track program, and I am launching soon a web-based trading room. And I know traders keep getting asked when. I've just got a major project that I've got to complete, the Follow Me. Once I get that done, it might be another month or so, then I'll be launching a live trading room as well. Now what I'd say to you to initially start with the fast track program, so you'll learn my setups, because in the live trading room, the setups that we run with are the exact setups in this program, because there are no better trade setups. As a recap, with T1, your T2, your T89, and even the T25. You don't need anything else. You've got trades firing off left, right, and center all night. So traders, if you haven't subscribed, if you're watching this not on my database but on YouTube, please subscribe and be kept up to date. Thank you very much, and I hope you got a lot out of this. Please order my program. Please feel free to drop me an email. Thank you very much.